It's November 2020 and time for status of the class. How are we doing? I want to know how you're doing. Let's get started. Joe Mackenzie here. It's time for status of the class. If you don't know what that is, when you're a school teacher, you usually do a status of the class before you begin your school day. It's sort of a housekeeping kind of issue, like how's everybody doing? And I haven't done that in a long time. So my question is, what's the status of our class? How are we doing? Because now it is almost, I was going to say almost November. It's November. It's November of COVID time. I'm still painting glass and deeply involved in temperature, but I really am dying to know what you're currently working on and what you're curious and interested in. The other thing that's happening for me are some, well, first let's start with the family stuff. The first family stuff that's happening is, sadly, some of you know that Fig Newton, my rough collie dog, oh, you know how much I love him and how much I love to paint him and all of that. But anyway, Fig is definitely in his last days, and oh gosh, it's painful to watch. At the same time, I'm reminding myself that this is not a tragedy. You know, right now in the world, there are many things to be upset about, but this fella's 12 and a half. He's had a great life. My sadness is about how much I'm going to miss him. But every moment that we have with him is precious, and I tell him that every day. So Fig Newton will not be here for much longer. So that's happening. Also, during the COVID time, my adult daughter moved in with us, which was an adjustment for everybody, but turned out to be actually a lot of fun to have her here. She's been terrific. But she's going to be moving out right around Thanksgiving time, which we're excited for her. You know, she's a brand new start, and so that's great. So those are kind of the social things that are happening. The other thing that I wanted to talk about is the last video I made, which was about having a longer brush. Look at the size of this thing. It's a number 22 Rosemary Kalinsky Red Sable. And I mean, it's 1.25 inches wide at the bottom. And prior to that, this was my my biggest brush, which is a Daniel Smith Sable Mix, number 20. Okay, so that's a 20, must be 1 inch. 22 must be 1.25 inch. But Daniel Smith, which is now sold by Dick Blick, doesn't make a 22. And I really wanted to see what would a 22 feel like in my hand. Now the big mistake that I made is the handle. See how much longer this handle is? It's so much longer. I'm painting yesterday. Look at this. I'm painting and I'm like poking my eye out. I don't know how many times I hit my glasses with it. And I thought, yeah, if I didn't have my glasses, I would have poked my eye out. So what I did was I measured this brush against this one and determined about how long to make it. And today I'm going to find a hacksaw. I'm going to cut it down. And I think if I dip it maybe in nail polish, that might seal the top of it. That's my hope. I mean, my heart is going to be in my throat because it's a ridiculously expensive brush. You know, I haven't had it long enough to fall in love with it, but I think that when I work on larger paintings, I think it's going to be a great brush because I want to keep that big stroke thing happening, and I think this is going to let me do it. Let me also say, however, that just adding 1/4 inch more to the brush, I am using a tremendous amount of paint. A lot of paint, takes a lot of pigment, but you already know that, you know, we've talked about that lots of times. The other thing I wanted to ask about is I did a I did a YouTube Live about 3 weeks ago, and we talked about, what did we talk about? We talked about how to mix paint, not using water to get there, and we talked about complementary colors and also mixing around the color wheel. And I wanted to know if you want me to do another YouTube Live or not. I don't know. I enjoy them because for me, they're very similar to the school experience. And I used to be a school teacher and I loved that. The other thing I have to share is just a suggestion. People had the suggestion for me for years and years and years, and wise old me ignored it because that's the kind of gal I am. But, we're all kind of isolated now. And what I did was, it had been suggested to me that I have an art group of some kind. Of peers, and I ignored that for the longest time because I feared rejection, and also because I just figured, well, everybody's out doing exciting things, no one's going to want to talk to me. But during this time of having to be home so much, I contacted kind of a wish list of artists and asked if they would like to art group with me once a month, and they said yes. So we had our first meeting, which was really interesting because I know all of them. I have a connection with them, but they don't have a connection with each other. We didn't share work. We pretty much, it was kind of a meet and greet. The next time we meet will be in a couple weeks, and the point is to share work. And we all agree that we don't want a group that just says, "Oh, I love that," or "That's great." That's not the point. The point is these are people that have painted for a long period of time, have a lot of wisdom, and we really want to hear another voice that says something about the work. We can decide to take the advice or we can decide not to. But when you work completely in the studio alone, sometimes you get in the own echo chamber of your brain, and you need to hear some other opinions. So I'm looking forward to that. I think it's going to be fun. And strangely enough, it wouldn't have come about if circumstances weren't what they were. So sometimes there's some silver linings that are popping up. And I wonder if you have some silver linings that have popped up for you too. So that is the status of the class, so to speak. That's what's happening around here. I'd love to know how you're doing because, like I said, I haven't checked in a while. Since I've checked in with you, I've got my palette cam going and my easel cam, which is a lot of fun for me. There's still a lot of problem solving to do around that, but I enjoy problem solving. So I've asked you a bunch of questions, and anytime you leave a comment is really helpful to me. And if you tell someone to subscribe, that really helps me too. So remember to keep the whites of your paper white, your paints wet, mass for value, mix for color, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.